Hey, how's everybody doing? I wanted to take a second and talk about the film Planet of the Humans that just came out recently. I'm I'm working on my car right now, so I'm in the garage laying on the floor, taking a quick break while I'm waiting for some fluids to drain here. So I watched this film Planet of the Humans like many people just for the first time the other day, and I thought it was a good film, and I wasn't surprised by any of it because I've been speaking out about the harms of the so called green technology industry for a long time now. The first talk I actually gave on this subject was back in 2014 here in Oregon. And at that talk, I experienced, and subsequent talks I've given on that topic, I've experienced many of the same reactions that we are seeing to Planet of the Humans. People who are saying, oh, you're a shill for the fossil fuel industry, to which I can respond, look, I've been fighting the fossil fuel industry like hell for a decade now. I've been part of direct action campaigns. I've been part of legal campaigns. I've been part of all kinds of campaigns against the fossil fuel industry. I've logged down in front of heavy equipment. I want the fossil fuel industry to be stopped. It is possibly the most destructive industry on the planet, although we could talk about industrial agriculture and agriculture in general probably has fossil fuels beat, although that's like saying which wound is going to kill the planet first, a heart wound or a brain wound. I mean, they're both fatal attacks to this living planet that we live on, right? So, other attacks that we see with this film, and with the talks that I've given on this topic before include, okay, well, what's your solution? What's your alternative? And people just want some sort of Hollywood ending. They want, an easily digestible, simple solution to these global, massive problems that we're facing. That's not the reality, okay? We don't live in a Hollywood movie. We live in the real world where the problems are complex, they're multifaceted, they're multidimensional, they're converging, and solutions are similarly complex, multifaceted, and coming from many different angles on this situation that we're in, right? So we're not going to be able to solve the problems of the world in a 100-minute film. Reality is way too complex for that. So we need to get out of this simplistic thinking that says, things have to be done in this very simplistic way, and we need to have a more nuanced analysis of the situation that we're in, right? And the different crises and the different ways that they need to be addressed. And that's, one of the problems with all the green technology shit is that people look at it and they want this really simple answer that just, okay, we'll fix it with technology. It really does sound like it's out of a Hollywood movie. Okay, well, the aliens are going to come and kill everything. Well, we'll hack their systems, Independence Day. It's a corny ass Hollywood movie. Okay, there's all these problems in the world and we're going to solve them with green technology. It's not a realistic solution. The problems aren't amenable to technological solutions because they emerge from technological industrial culture in the first place. That's where they emerged from. And so these efforts, in solar, wind, and electric cars, biofuels, all these things, nuclear, we can lump all these industrial technologies for energy generation together, and we can say they are not going to save the planet. They are not going to make things better. And that's not to say that I'm going to hate on anybody who's installing solar panels on their house. Look, here I am working on my car right now while I'm talking about fighting the fossil fuel industry, right? The reality is we're living in a world where it's impossible to be pure, right? Even if you want to be as pure as possible, you want to eat all organic food, you can afford that shit. You want to wear all organic natural fiber clothes, you can afford that. You want to, be the most conscious consumer there is. The reality is that you're still going to be connected to systems of oppression because that's entwined into every aspect of the dominant culture that we live in today. Whether it's the sweatshops or the fertilizers and the pesticides in the crops or the fossil fuels, the plastics, whatever it is, right? We should try and divorce ourselves from these systems, right? I drive as little as possible. I keep my car running as little as possible because I know that it's much less impact on the planet to, keep an old car running for longer than it is to buy a new car, even if it's some new fancy Tesla or some bullshit like that, right? But the reality is, I don't have the money to buy an electric car, and I need a car to exist in this society as it is now. Unfortunately, I wish I didn't, but I need one, and that's the reality for so many poor people and people who have to go to jobs in the situation that we're in, right? So we need to have this complex, holistic analysis where we understand that these problems are systemic, they're not personal, and therefore they must be solved politically and socially, not at the personal level. And that doesn't mean, like I'm saying, that we can't do anything at the personal level, okay? I was just harvesting some wild food earlier today from the meadow right out here. And, I do that because it's delicious, it's healthy, it doesn't hurt the land to get that food. And also because, I think it's a great way to partially transition and partially mitigate the impact that I would otherwise have eating some shit from the grocery store. So, Planet of the Humans, I thought it was a good film. It's worth checking out. I think I'm going to do an interview with Jeff Gibbs, the director, coming up here soon. I'm probably going to do potentially an interview with Ozzy Zahner as well, the engineer who was featured prominently in the film. For those of you who don't know, I am the co-author of a forthcoming book called Bright Green Lies, which looks at the problems of solar, wind, electric cars, a lot of the mainstream solutions that are critiqued in Planet of the Humans, but also some other things that aren't covered, like the idea that dense urbanization or green cities will save the planet. We go into tidal power, we go into biomass in detail, we go into recycling in detail and breaking down why recycling won't save the planet. It's actually bad for the planet. Recycling is an incredibly toxic, polluting industry, right? And so, I wanted to make this video while I'm sitting here. Like I said, I'm waiting for my fluids to drain here. But I wanted to show, too, that, I make most of my videos out in nature in these beautiful places, and I show people these glaciers that are melting on Tahoma, Mount Rainier, or I show people these forests, these meadows. But I want to show people too, like the reality is I'm living in this world like the rest of you. I'm just a regular working class dude who's trying to figure out what the fuck to do in the midst of the 6th mass extermination event as this culture, this dominant culture that I was born into, that I didn't choose, that I didn't create, that I haven't made any major decisions on the course of this culture, because we live in a, hierarchical, quote-unquote, democracy that's not actually a democracy, that's controlled by the ruling class, that's controlled by the rich, the wealthy, the oligarchs, and in which working people don't have a say in which direction the society goes. And grassroots, people who care about the land, people who care about the living planet, people who care about justice, don't have a say in the direction that this world is going in, right? So I'm trying to figure out what to do, and I have a lot of ideas because I've been working on this shit as hard as I can for many years. I spent my whole day today organizing, coordinating people, working on resistance campaigns, trying to get people together in the midst of this coronavirus crisis to build revolutionary power and build revolutionary movements. And the reality is that I think a film like Planet of the Humans is useful to that end because it strips us of these illusions, these false solutions that so many people pour their energy and their hearts into, and they put all their hope into this false solution. It's a false solution ultimately, and we need to have those illusions broken, even if it's hard, even if it's heartbreaking for some people, even if some people want to push back and say blah blah blah, this critique, that critique, this critique. The fundamental premise of that film is solid, and it's a fundamentally solid critique of green technology and of the mainstream environmental movement, which has been co-opted into essentially being a lobbying industry for industrial technology at this point. So I applaud the filmmakers. They're trying to do a lot in a 100-minute film. There are plenty of critiques that people can make that are valid, but if you haven't made a film before, if you haven't directed a film before, if you haven't edited a film before, then maybe you don't know how challenging it is. And so I would like people to be humane in those critiques, and be friendly in those critiques and not assume the worst of these filmmakers who most of the people who are criticizing them don't know anything about and haven't really studied their work. So I'm going to try and get together with those folks, see what they say, and go from there. But, if you're interested in organizing around these issues, if you have a critique of green technology, if you have a critique of fossil fuels, if you have a critique of capitalism and this whole omnicidal industrial system that we find ourselves in, then I want to work with you. I want to connect with you. Let's hook up. Please reach out to me. You can find, this video. I'm going to put it up on YouTube, on Facebook. I'll put it on Twitter. Get in touch with me any way you can, and let's get together.